Hello.
Morning.
All right. Couple housekeeping items.
Yeah.
So I've had a few conversations with a few parents of late.
Okay.
That are local, and they listen to the podcast. And there's been some. I feel a little bit like when I'm talking to parents, they feel like they have to play a little bit of defense about why they're asking me questions or why they're doing certain behaviors with their kid or deciding to do this or that or whatever. So as an example, one dad was talking to me and it was like, hey, like, I'm trying to see like when would be a good time to get my son in the gym, but like, I know you guys always talk about like they don't need to do too much. So like I'm not trying to sound like I'm, crazy dad or whatever, but like, so I wanted to address this part because I know not even just for local people, but people that are not local. Like, I'm not judging what your decisions are when we're sitting here talking. So sometimes I know it could probably feel like I'm talking like something that is so applicable to you that it sounds like I'm talking directly at you, or I'm down talking some of your decision making or something like that. Yeah. And like, I don't mean to, is my point. So you're allowed to do what you want. There's not black and white answers to everything. I don't think there's one right way to do anything. And I always encourage parents to like talk to me honestly and ask whatever the questions are that they have. So what I don't want to do that thing where it's such a weird thing. It's almost like when you're the student in class, you don't want to ask a question because you feel stupid. It's like, I don't want to make people feel like that is what I'm saying.
For sure.
So if people that write in questions or like parents that I talk to or whatever, if you see me at one of the rinks, like sometimes people do that. They come up and say, hi, same for you. It's like, you don't have to feel like you can't ask me a question or talk to me about something that's going on or a decision that you made to see if it's the right thing, whether it's pick whatever topic we smack talk, if it's spring hockey, if it's working out too soon, if it's doing extra things when kids are young, going to all the different camp, whatever the topic is. I don't want to make people feel like they can't ask a question or something, like I'm judging their behavior or their decision. Like, the whole point of the podcast is to help with these exact kinds of questions. So I've been noticing that a little bit with some of it's not even just parents locally. Like I said, sometimes it's people we talk to through membership, like consultations or questions I get in. It just feels like there's always a caveat. They throw like and I know what you say, like not this, but I'm still wondering about this thing or whatever. So I wanted to start with that just to clear the air, as they say, because the point of the podcast is to get your questions answered, because you guys don't all know a lot of the information, which is why the point of the podcast, so that to educate and get you to understand some of these other things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Like I get that totally, because like when people would come in like to use the treadmill, that was a big one. Like parents would come in, this is before I ever did the podcast, and they'd say, yeah, we're going to buy a package on the treadmill, because he just needs, they explain what he might need help for. It's like they're explaining like I don't know, what's the sentence, man?
Like they're just trying to justify say that they know things or whatever.
Yeah, justify why they're doing something. Yeah. Or
I say it like they're playing defense, like they're trying to defend why they're doing their thing.
I don't know. I probably do that in certain things.
For sure.
Go to the doctor and say, I'm here. You downplay everything, but it's like
100%.
You go to the doctor because you go to the doctor. You should, right?
For sure.
You have yellow teeth and you go to the dentist because you didn't brush them out. You can't brush your teeth, man. It's always stupid, eh? So, and to the flip side of that is, I know a lot of people come up and they'll say, it's amazing some of the some of the emails or texts that I get saying, hey man, like you said this like exactly word for word and we did it and we like it. We got a question about this. And it's like, first of all, like I hope people that ask questions are listening to the whole podcast and getting the idea entirely about what we're talking about, not just bits and pieces. Because I laugh sometimes when I hear someone say, like, I was looking at a couple of comments the other day and people were saying, so you're saying take the summer completely off, eh? Like, that doesn't make sense. It's like, well, of course it doesn't make sense. Right?
Yeah.
It's not like you play hockey for 6 months and then like just recover, lay in bed for the summer, or,
Yeah.
I mean, no. So like, I would hope that there's a small part, and some people are not around the game long enough. They might take things literally, but I think there's a common sense to every side of everything, and there's certain things that work for certain people. And at the end of the day, like I say this more and more, is like, I don't care what you do. Like, because I'm not like, who the hell am I? But I'm just, when I speak about our stuff, like about the things that we talk about, I talk about, like, again, this is a kind of a reminder. I'm given my perspective as a player, as a young player, as a high level player, as a high level coach, as a youth coach, and as a dad, and as a dad of a kid that's at a high level himself, that's been through it. I've been through it all, with NHL players down to the youth level. So like, I've seen when someone says that you should be on the ice more because Crosby did. It's like, okay, what you have to understand, like, this would be the caveat for that. I hate that word too, but like, when someone says, like, you look at the best players in the world, and Connor McDavid, that's all they ever did was shoot pucks, and they're on the ice all the time. And so you can say, there's a part of me that says you're 100% right, but the other part of it is like, there was no stopping those guys from being on the ice. At least I know that from Crosby. That guy just worked, and there is no stopping him. And of course, you're not going to sit there, no, don't run, don't work out, don't shoot pucks. But it was 100% intrinsically driven. And the thing that I would say to parents that say, well, I just can't keep my kid off the ice, I would say that might be true. It might be true, but just don't say anything to them for a while, right? Just don't bring up everything that comes up. Like, every kid's going to want to be on the ice. Every hockey player does. But if you're not the one driving the bus and telling them all the information all the time, they might not be aware of the camp or whatever that's coming up, and they might not ask about it unless you push them. I know I see a lot of the young kids that are out there. Of course, they're going on the ice. Dad said, "Hey, there's ice at 6 o'clock here. You want to go? There's a 3-on-3 here. You want to go?" Yeah. So, so my point is, like, you're going to do whatever you need to do, what you think is right. And for some of the things that I've done with my son or kids that I work with might not be the exact same for you, and that's okay. Like, it doesn't make me right, doesn't make you right, doesn't make me wrong, doesn't make you wrong. Everyone's got their own thing. And if you choose as a parent that you think that I think that piece of advice is just stupid, and you choose to do something else with it, then God bless you. It's okay. And we'll see how it goes at the end. And you might be right, you might be wrong. But, like, we talk about being on the ice, people say it makes no, like, I think a lot of people from other sports say it, like, basketball players, golfers, they do it every single day, and it's 100% true, pretty much every day. But the hockey is like, I don't know if it's a different animal, but your body does need to recover from the competition. Number one, from the competition, and number two, like, if you are in that skater's stance every day, like, it's hard on your hips and shit. So, but I'm not saying not do it. There's a time and a place. Like, so some of these people that say, well, you got to get on the ice. I say, I'm not disagreeing with you. Get on the ice, but, like, don't make it ridiculous. Take a period of time off to recover, and then maybe it's technical skating, but it doesn't have to be balls out every single time, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyways, yeah. So I don't know if I blew what you're saying up in the water.
No.
But
My point with your point, it was just that you guys are gonna do what you want. I'm not judging what you're doing, and so what you just said was a good point. Also, it was like, in another domain, I probably do the same thing. Like, I'm not that smart. You're not that smart. We're not that smart, right? So it's like, we don't know all the answers. We don't know everything about everything. So
it's basically, for me, it's experience, a little bit of education, and, like, personal experience, a little bit of educating myself on different things, and then doing this with players for over and over. I see patterns, right?
Yeah, and I speak from the same.
Yeah.
You more than me because you've been doing it
Yeah.
longer. But, like, I'm trying to figure it out just as much as everyone. You know what I mean? So when we go to have a conversation, it's just a conversation. Like, you can bring your thing to the table and we can talk about it. It doesn't have to be like you're nervous about chatting about your point.
But this is the part that, like, because you were bringing something up the other day, how there's a I don't know if it's a new thing. It has to be a new thing, but it's new in a different way, maybe. Of the U7 travel. Remember the thing you were telling me about the other day?
Yeah.
U7 outside of Hockey
Oh, the
Canada.
league thing? Yeah.
There's a league that's going to start up. Is it U7?
I don't know.
Let's say it's
U7,
U9,
yeah.
8, 7. That's outside of the Hockey Canada thing for the elite players to have real competition. And they're going to go to 6 showcases a year and stuff. And it's like, this is the part that I'm saying is like, it's, come on, man. Come on. But listen, if you as a parent feel like that's what you need for your kid, this is our point of the whole podcast, right? If you think that your child is that good at 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, that you need the extra elite of the elite showcases for some reason, if that's what you feel is very necessary, then you got to do it, man.
Yeah.
And God bless you.
A little side tangent,
Yeah.
maybe, before we get into the topic, because now we're kind of going on here. But the elite of the elite, when you're like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like, how do you even know who that is? So like if I put on like this super all-star elite AAA special person kitty lick lick tournament with only the best guys from all the best, it's like you always talk about with these kids that are young, it's like they go play for Team Canada at whatever tournament and like 8 of them are from Windsor, Essex County. It's like, how's that possible? It's like, that's not the best kids ever. It's like, who has the resources to go across Canada or across North America and scout the best kids at 10? It's like, no one's investing in doing that. So you go play with like the best of the best tournament or the brick tournament or the whatever fill in the blank tournament. And it's like, you don't know if it's the best, man. You don't know if these are the best kids. Like, you don't know, right? You can't. So the little side tangent about the young kid stuff, it's just like, how do you know if it's actually the best kids? So even if you think I need to do all the elite of the elite stuff because my kid's elite of the elite, and you go join this tournament or this league or this whatever, it's like, I was a good player when I was a kid, and my dad didn't put me in any stuff that was the extra. You did the same thing with Charlie. It's like when he was 13, it's like he wasn't going to Sweden to play in the
Not one
whatever, you know what I mean? So you don't know who the best guys are. And so it's hard.
Plays lacrosse though.
Yeah, but when you're little, my point is like, even if you're saying you think you need to do that for your kid, it's just, how do you know that it's actually the best guys, right? So
makes you feel good though.
Yeah, I know.
If it makes you feel good, do it.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the PowerTech online membership program. If you've been listening to Andy and I wondering, hey, how are they able to get all this podcast content out there? Well, that's because of our members. For just $9.99 a month, you can get access to our online video library, including hundreds of videos of Coach Andy teaching, and have the option for consultation calls with Andy or myself to go over anything you need. We can cover training, nutrition, coaching, parenting, agents, the junior college hockey path, whatever's of interest to you. You'll also be able to participate in our popular Ask Me Anything episodes, have access to special discount codes, and be given priority for any PowerTech in-person camps or events. If you like what we're doing here and you want to support us, this is the best way to do it. Visit powertechhockey.ca/memberships or find the link in the description of this video to learn more. Okay, so two topics that I'm going to weave together a little bit today. I got one of our members wrote in kind of a good topic that I want to touch on because I know it's common for young kids, and it's kind of about nerves when you play. And this is again where it's important. I was having this conversation with Dan last week, talking on the BioSteel podcast about when parents, or adults forget what it's like to be in the position of the kid. So as an example, I use the treadmill as an example. It's big, it's loud, can be overwhelming when you're 6 years old to come in here when the thing is 50 times the size of you and you are just nervous about it because of whatever stimulus overload. And as an adult, I'm sitting here like, what are you nervous about? Like, you're not going to fall. Like, you're not going to hit your knees. I know that you can't. There's nothing to be scared of. Just go. But putting yourself in the position of the kid where things might seem like unreasonable from our adult brain to the kid's brain seems totally rational to be behaving the way they're behaving. And so before getting into this topic, I kind of wanted to put that as like a little bit of a context piece for the adults listening, is that you need to remember to try and put yourself in the mindset of someone who's 10 or 12 or 15 or 17, where they don't have a lot of these life experiences. They don't brush things off as not a big deal. I was talking to one of our guys at the academy that he got in a little tussle with another kid, and he was super upset because he thought he might like be expelled from the school, and he's like freaking out because they were going at it a little bit one day, and I'm sitting here like, why would you at all think you could get expelled from? But he thought that was actually real, like that
Yeah.
could happen, right? Because he's a
Yeah.
little kid. So that's kind of my precursor to what we're going to talk about is from the adult perspective, try to remember what the kid perspective is like, which is hard. It's hard to put yourself there and remember what that's like. But that's what I want to kind of start with before we get into the exact question about the nerves thing.
Yeah.
Anything to add on that or no?
No, no, just go.
Okay.
I'll jump in.
So I'm not going to read the whole thing verbatim, but the long and the short of the question is, this member that we have was talking about his son. They were in a semifinal game, and it went to overtime, and the kid didn't play. The kid didn't go on the ice for the whole overtime shootout situation. So he said that the kid told him later that he was too nervous to go on the ice and asked to not play, like asked the coaches to not play. So this person specified that he likes the coach. Coach is good with the kids. Like he has no issues with the coach at all. He was surprised to not see his kid on the ice, but then his kid came and told him after that, I was just too nervous to play in overtime or to be the guy that has to be on the ice in that key situation, whatever. And the kid was 10-year-old. Okay. So maybe, I don't even know if this is necessarily extreme. Maybe I'm sure a lot of kids feel like this in a lot of situations. Actually not asking to not play, maybe that's like more of an extreme example, but this thing that kids have, this like over anxious or anxiety about playing, I get this question a lot too, is like, how do I just relax and try to play my game? Like that's a common question that a lot of the kids ask me. So I want to talk a little bit about this kind of topic of being too nervous to play and how to fix it, not the right word, approach it, help the kids, support the kids from the like coaching, parenting role, work through some of this stuff, whether it's explicit or not, because a lot of kids might not even talk about it. So how to address your team, how to address your kid, and just kind of see where their head's at to try to work through some of these things so you don't have a surprise like this where it's like, why didn't you play? Well, I was terrified to go on the ice from your 10-year-old or whatever, right? So I'll ask you some specific questions, but any like opening thoughts about the nerves in general kind of thing?
Well, I remember like I'm 6. I remember. I remember when I was playing 9, 10 years old, we like on the travel team, we would go to tournaments, and well, actually more than just tournaments, we had one guy on our team that would puke before every game. He got so nervous. His dad was a doctor, and he would just come in and have to give him gravel and stuff, but he would puke every single game, and I'm like, what? But I don't know if it was like, no, I'm not no doctor, right? But I don't know if it was like just a physical response to being like excited to play, or if he was actually nervous about losing, or it was a big moment or whatever. But it hit him hard, and that was like probably the only time I've seen someone physically get sick every game for nerves. But I have seen people say like, I don't want to go out there or whatever. They get very nervous. Now, I think if you go into the Stanley Cup final, actually, I was watching. Khabib Nurmagomedov, I can't say his name. Khabib the fighter, an interview with him, and someone was talking about when he was fighting Conor McGregor, like he had zero nerves because he was so prepared. He was just like joking around, and they called his name, and he walked out like I'm gonna like zero, which is very odd, right? But when you get in competition, I think it's normal to be nervous. That's not nervous, anxious, excited, and all those things. But when it comes down to the competition or whatever, what will make you more nervous, or will put the negative spin on your nervousness, or make it a negative thing, is just when you're thinking too much about it, because what you're thinking about in the future is the unknown. And anytime you don't know something is when you start questioning, or because your mind starts to wander, right? Is it going to be a hard game? Are these guys going to be better? Am I going to play good? I hope I don't screw up. And those words come out of your mouth, and those thoughts come out of your mouth, right? Because it's just the fear of unknown. And if you understand that most of the things that you fear never happen, and when they do, it's not even close typically to what you thought was going to happen. And I think when people go into competition, like hockey games and stuff, big games and all that kind of stuff, It's very, very important to realize, like, there's it's that what we always talk about is that mental toughness 101 is control what you can control and stay in the present. And I think, like, for most things in life, like if I talk to a player, I talk to my kid, like right now he's got his NHL draft coming up and he's going nuts. It's 3 weeks away, 2 weeks away. Like, it's the fear of the unknown or the excitedness of the unknown. He doesn't know what's going to happen. And when your mind goes there, you're like, you're all over the place. And where does it typically go? It typically goes to what if, and what if means typically for the negative side, right? What if, what if they forget about me? What about this? Like, so what happens is when your mind doesn't stay present, it's you go nuts. You get nervous. Bad things happen. Not necessarily bad things happen, but you just lose control. So when you're feeling nervous, that would be the lesson: is stay in the moment, control what you can control. So that's easy to say when you're the kid on the bench that is in that situation. So then what's the build up to that is that's where you need that village of people to constantly remind you. That's what makes good coaches, good parenting, is to teach people that things are not as good or as bad as you think they're going to be. They just are what they are. And then the side note of that, I'm probably going long here, but the side note of that is you stay present the best you can. You teach your kids through coaching, through parenting, and you're always teaching them to get back to being present, what control what you can control. And then the next thing is to prepare what you can prepare for. Like, if you're unprepared, if you haven't done the work, if you go to that game or that tournament, or like if that kid's never been on a 3-on-3 overtime game, I understand where he could be nervous, especially if they've never practiced. Now he's kind of thrown in the fire. But if you're in the moment and you're prepared the best you can be, then there's really nothing to get too worried about. Because at the end of the day, let's say if it's a hockey game, that at the end of the day, you're either better or you're not, or you're prepared or you're not. And it's okay. And it's okay to make a mistake too, by the way.
Okay, so hang on to the mistake thing because I want to go to that in a second. But I want to deal with this situation directly first, just for the person asking the question. And then I'll broaden out to just like mistakes in general. So for this kid, too nervous, didn't want to go on the ice. So now it's already happened. So like we can't be preventative because the thing has already happened. So if you're a dad now in this particular situation, it's like, now I just figured out that my kid asked to not be on the ice, which I had no idea. Maybe he did, but let's just say I had no idea that he was feeling this way. He told me after the fact that he's terrified. How do you now go about dealing with that as the parent, or addressing this specific situation with this kid?
Okay, so if that was my kid,
Yeah.
If he told me after the game, he goes, I didn't want to go out. I told the coach I didn't want to go out. I would actually tell him, I say, I screwed up here, son. I messed up with you. What did we not do? Have I put pressure on you? If I've put too much expectation on you, I would actually say that. And then I would also say that I failed to not help you through that. And I'm not saying the dad's an idiot or mom's an idiot. I'm just saying they just probably never seen it coming. They just thought it was a game, their little kid's game, but probably couldn't understand the how important this was, because it's obviously important to the kid, right? So that's what I would have looked at saying that. It's like
okay, there was a disconnect somewhere that I didn't see, like my bad.
100%. Yeah, not you're an idiot.
Yeah,
but it's like, okay, I don't want my son to deal with stuff where he's just so scared that he won't do it. Like, and and that's where I would go. I would like explain fear. That's because when nervousness, that would be fear. Like, most things come down to fear why you don't do things, right? Would you agree? More or less, you're scared of results. You're fear of failure. That's what that would probably be. Fear of being embarrassed. So that's an issue that I would have said, okay, I've done something. I got to do something with my son to kind of fix that. So how would I do that? I would, I'd go and explain to him that it, minimize the game a little bit, meaning don't minimize that it's important, but minimize that it's not the end of life or the end all be all to everything. It's a hockey game, that you're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to succeed and fail, or whatever. But that, how we've talked about this before, when we could talk about a little bit of mental toughness, because that's what that is like, there's no such thing as a big game. If you live in the moment and if you're prepared, there is no such thing as a big game. There's no such thing as a big moment because it's just is what it is, right? Because a championship game versus the first game of the season is still just a hockey game, right? It's playing the best team or the worst team. It's just a hockey game. It is what it is. It's what you put value on or what you tell yourself it's going to be. So that's why it's teaching kids to live in the moment. So that's what I would go back with my son and say like what are we fear, like maybe even recognize different things, like, oh, he's nervous to do things and he won't do it. So that's, I would take onus on that kind of stuff and start teaching, stay in the moment. What are you scared of? How are we scared? And like that's what I would do that.
And then start to address so like, for example, let's say the kid says, well, I'm scared. We're going to go to mistakes in a second, but I'm saying like, I'm scared to turn the puck over or whatever. For me, my thing would be like, turn it over. Like get used to it, man. Like, you're going to turn the puck over, right? It's okay to turn the puck over. So that kind of leads me into my mistakes thing, where from this situation to be like, if he's scared of making a mistake, because that's pretty common, then it's like, get used to making the mistake, man. Like, it's okay to make the mistake, especially if you have a coach that's supportive, that's not punishing you for making mistakes. Then take advantage of that. And I'm not saying go turn the puck over on purpose, but be okay with making the mistake and recognize when you make the mistake and that you're fine. Like, you came out the other side and you're okay. It's that voluntary exposure kind of thing to the mistake.
You know, it's funny. I was just thinking, like, I not caught myself, but I remember raising our kids. I remember that jackass over there. He used to spill things a lot, right? So I remember he'd spill something. Oh, sorry, Dad. Sorry. I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. Like, but I know that sounds like very simple, but there's a lot of parents that go, be careful. And it's a snap show right away. If you would just stop using your hands when you're talking or be mindful of what you're doing, you wouldn't spill shit all over the place. But like, if you did it 12 times a day, I'd say, okay, dude, hey, stop hitting the freaking cup. But he would spill things. It'd be like, sorry, Dad. And it's like, dude, it's okay. Let's wipe it up. It's not a big deal. It happens to us all, right? And like, when your kids make mistakes, it's like, it's okay to, like, it's actually a good thing to say, it's okay. Let's fix it. Like, it's not a big deal because we all make mistakes, right? And I know that seems like a very simple thing, but it's true.
Well, okay, so this is exactly where I was going to go. So I wanted to talk about that. Most of the time, the questions that I get from players is, I'm just so scared to make a mistake on the ice. Like, how do I get out of my own head? This kind of comment. So whether your players are saying this to you or not, or your kid is saying this to you or not, it's a worry that everyone has. So I want to talk a little bit from the coaching perspective, parenting perspective about that, making mistakes. Something that I like to do from the coaching side of it is, without being prompted. Like, I don't wait for something to happen where a kid is already panicked like this. I try to address it right away, like start of the year, first time talking to the group, whenever it is, about what is going to piss me off and what's not, right? So my first move is always to say to them, I don't care if you make a mistake, because I actually don't. Because at the end of the day, like, this is the part I don't say out loud, is I actually don't really care if we win or not. I care that you guys learn how to play the right way. If we also win as a team, then that's cool. But my job of coaching, like, I'm not worried about pursuing winning at all costs in any way, shape, or form. That's personal to me. I just don't care. Like I've said to you before, I'm not super competitive in that sense because it doesn't actually affect my life. If it affected my life more, then maybe I'd care more from that sense. But for me personally, that's my philosophy. I care that you guys play the right way, meaning you're going to have to make mistakes, because if I'm doing a good job coaching, I'm going to be forcing you to do things you're not used to doing because I'm teaching you how to play the game in a way you haven't played before. You're going to screw up. So I start with that. What's not going to piss me off is a mistake. What's going to piss me off is how you react to your mistake. If it's the bad body language, the slamming the stick, the swearing, the blaming, the attitude, that's going to piss me off. So make your mistake, eat shit, feel bad about it for a second. That's fine. And then let's figure it out, right? Maybe you come back to the bench and I talk to you about it. Maybe I don't need to. Maybe I just come over and say, hey, you already know, right? And they say, yeah. And that's all I need to say, or I say nothing. You just already know. So they need to know ahead of time that you're allowed to turn the puck over. I've said this with guys this year, like, their beginnings are, the most like blatant stupid mistake. Take like I threw a pizza up the middle and turned it over and they came down and scored. Guy comes to the bench and I just go, I don't leave it. I don't say nothing because then the kid could stew and think my coach is so pissed at me, right? And I go put him at ease right away. I almost even make a joke out of it, like, hey man, you know you can't throw pizzas up the middle, right? And they just go, I know. I'm like, okay, let's not do that. Make sure on the whatever. Now there's been communication and they don't feel like they don't know what the coach is thinking, or there's that element of uncertainty of like, is he gonna shorten my shifts later because I made this mistake now? Try to address it right away. So from the coaching side, when it comes to mistakes, this is something that whether the kids tell you or not, they're all worried about it. So if one thing you can do is just go with that to start the year off, assuming you're not a goof of a coach, which you could be, but if you're not, then address this right away. Make your mistakes. It's okay. We're going to talk about it. What's going to piss me off is how you react to it, number one. And number two is going to be if you've made the same mistake 27 times and we've talked about it 27 times and I can't see that you're making any effort to fix the issue, that's going to start to piss me off also, right? Everyone knows the rules then to start right away, and I find with a lot of my guys, that puts them at ease because like it's not a contest of who can make the least mistakes for me. I don't care about that. Nobody's perfect. I wasn't a perfect player in any way, shape, or form, and I'm not going to expect kids that are learning to play the game to be a perfect player at all, And I think that's important coming from the coaching side of it. So that's all I want to say about that. Anything to add from the coaching?
Yeah, well, like here's the thing: if you the thing is that if kids don't make mistakes, you don't have the opportunity to coach.
Yeah, right.
That's what coaching is, and then also sometimes kids and parents confuse coaching with getting in shit. I get that a lot. Right. I don't want to get in shit. It's like no, it's just called coaching. So if you take like getting a puck out of your own zone, like it's really not the end of the world in Pee Wee Major at a 13-year-old level that you didn't make the exact right play that the coach thought you should make. But if you send the puck up the middle of the ice and it's intercepted in the back of your net, now it's called coaching. That's all it is. And that's the best way to learn is by making a mistake that was costly, right? So, and it's not like losing your shit on the kid. That's is important. It's about saying, okay, Eric, what do we talk about? Remember in practice, we talked about getting the puck out off the wall or doing it this way. So why do we do that? I know because it went up the middle. Okay, there we go. That's why. That's the reason. That's the result of you will cost goals, or that the turnover is a costly turnover for a team. So we want to avoid that, or you can't be doing that again. Yeah. So if he does it once or two, or you do that a few times. Now that mistake that happens over and over and over. Then it comes down to a couple of things, right? Now you are not paying attention. Now you piss me off. Now it's not a mistake anymore. It's you just don't care. That's a different issue. Or you do not have the brains to absorb this shit, then you shouldn't play, right? But that's a couple of those things. But like, if you don't care and you refuse to listen, that's a different issue. But if most kids are willing to learn and listen, so mistakes are good. Now, just a side note of that is like, I know it's really hard for people to accept, and sometimes it's just it sounds like it's cliche bullshit, but you don't learn by succeeding. If you do everything right, you'll never learn anything. Well, not much anyways. You're going to make mistakes, and everything's going to be fine, but you're going to make mistakes. But if I sit here and just beat myself up after every mistake I've ever made, I mean, I'd be black and blue, dude. Right? And it's like when you start a skill. Okay, you're starting a skill. You want to learn how to shoot properly. It's like you don't get it on 3 tries, man. It's a mistake after mistake. But the beautiful thing about mistakes or fixing things is that's where your learning takes place. And you hear this from the most successful people in the world, the biggest business people in the world, is they failed their way to success. It's the truth, right? A salesman doesn't make 10 phone calls and get 10, or it used to be phone calls, but you don't make 10 phone calls and get 10 sales. You make typically 50 phone calls to maybe get an appointment.
Yeah, to get one answer.
One answer. Yeah. It's persistence. It's learning. So you take that first phone call that you make, you sound like a scared little girl. Can I I'm selling this photocopier. They go, yeah, okay, see you, buddy. And then you go, but you learned, okay, to have a steady voice and then have some confidence that, oh, maybe don't beg people and act like you know what you're doing. But that takes time. And it was no different than when I started this business. Like I was nervous at first to actually sell the product. I'd go out and say, like, I got the best freaking product you ever, like, I got the best hockey school you ever seen. Right. I was nervous because I knew I did, but I didn't know that I didn't know that I know. I knew that I did, but people would look at you like, what are you talking about? But then once you understand that you talk to people and you get the confidence that you can talk, you already know what the objections are going to be. You already know what they're going to say, think, and then you know your product's going to be good. Then you have the confidence just to do it. It's like, then you're not needy anymore. It's like, no, I don't even want you anymore. But anyways, my point is that you make a lot of mistakes to get some success. So as a hockey player, as anybody, as a dad, anything that you're going to do in life is that you got to make mistakes. You have to make them, right? Your dad's a musician. He didn't just start playing Pink Floyd The Wall, right? He had to learn, right? He had to learn. I know I pick out the stupidest shit, but right, you have to learn. You have to make the mistake. No, that's not right. That's not right. And then you got some beautiful thing happening, right? And it's just so important. And I encourage parents, coaches to not just have a mistake fest out there, but it, coaching or mistakes equal coaching, and mistakes equal learning, and mistakes equal success at some point. So anyways,
Yeah, no, it's
long
good.
story, man.
I think my little side tangent to your side tangent too is like even along all this whole path of as the adult or the parent, the coach, whatever, you can be okay with mistakes and all that, but the kid or the player needs the reminders. You have to keep telling them that it's okay that they've made their mistake until it's no longer okay that they made their mistake. So another like strategy I have on the bench is if because kids make multiple mistakes and they'll make the same mistake multiple times. And so I escalate the fact that I'm recognizing their mistake and pointing it out to them all along the way so that when I snap, it's not a freaking shock,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Right?
Didn't come out of left field.
So I've had this as an example where let's say defenseman gets walked to the net once. Like, hey man, you're not in the right position. You need to be here. Make sure you turn your feet this way and not that way. Keep the guy in front of you. Good. Does it again. Gets walked. Hey, you got outside the dots again. We just talked about it. I need you here so that they can't come in here, right? That's the second time I'm talking to you about it. And I'll say it, I'll say that. This is the second time I'm talking to you about it, right? Happened again. Third time. It's like, hey, I cannot put you on the ice anymore if you're going to be doing this again. I need you to recognize and fix the mistake. If you do it again, I can't play you. Like, is that like fair? And I'll even say that, like, fair? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it is fair. I've told you now 3 times. I've escalated it with you. I've pointed it out to you 3 times. I've reminded you 3 times, even in the heat of the game. I'm not mad at you. I'm still not mad at you. I haven't snapped. I've just explained. I've pointed out, whatever. Not trying to give you shit, but I can't play you if you're going to keep making this mistake because it's going to cost us now, right? So that's one thing too to keep in mind is it's one thing as the coach to say, yeah, I'm okay with kids making mistakes, but you have to address it. There actually has to be the communication because the kid doesn't know what you think, man. They don't know what you think, and that's one of the worst things about being a player as you get up to higher levels. Is I remember thinking this till the day I stopped playing. Is you just don't know what your coach thinks because most of them aren't good communicators, right? And even if they are a good communicator, there's 20 something of you, and they don't go to everybody every day to talk, you know. So as the coach or the whatever, the parent, whatever role you're in, it's up to you to try to make that bridge best you can because the kids need reminding. They need you to keep talking to them about it. You know, don't just leave them out and expect that they know because you said it once because they don't, you know. And halfway through the year, everyone goes through this every year where they'll have a stretch of time where it's like, I literally want to punch my coach right in the face, man. Like he's not talking to me. I don't know what he thinks. I'm not playing, yada, yada, yada. And part of that could be on the player, but a lot of that could be on the coach or on the parent. You know, it's like you were saying about if you're mom or dad and saying to your kid like, sorry, did I put pressure on you somewhere where I didn't need to, or like we clearly didn't. There's a disconnect here somewhere because I didn't see this coming, and now there's this issue that we have to deal with or whatever. You know what I mean? So I think it's important that you have to keep that reminder on the kids because they're just kids, man, and they don't forget, they don't pay, or they do forget, they don't pay attention. You need to repeat yourself 50 freaking times for it to sink in, and all this stuff is just part of the deal. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, one sec. Go nuts, Nico. Don't worry about it. We're going. Just move around. Honestly, go nuts. It's all good. So the part where it will matter, because I can see some of the people listening saying, yeah, you got to be hard on the kids. You got to tell them, sit them if they make a mistake. It's the only way they learn and all that stuff. Whatever, that's fine. That might be your philosophy, but at the end of the day, there's a time and a place where that is going to happen. That's when, and I would say this for coaches, when it really matters. Not really matters. That's the wrong way to say it. But when your livelihood depends on winning and losing, that's when it's a different story, right? So the kid walks into the OHL, college, junior B. They like coaches are getting paid, and as long as they keep their job if they're winning and there's a good culture, right? So if it's based on that, now that mistake that you make on the wall, yes, it's okay that we're going to teach you, and we're going to teach you so that you become better and all that stuff. But I don't have a lot of tolerance for that. Like, until you get good at it, I can't put you on the ice because it's my job now. Do you know what I mean?
I also would add, I'm even cool with it because, like, this is the other thing. Like we always say, I'm not the rainbows and sunshine guy either. Like, I'm as hard as on guys as anybody. We talked about standards last week when we were talking about our standards in the gym and stuff. Like, I'm a pain in the ass to the guys, but I try to do it appropriately. I would even be fine with it outside of when it's my job. Like, for example, this year I'm going to coach a team, and it's not like I'm the coach, but it's not like my job. Like, if I got fired, it wouldn't actually matter to my life, right?
Actually, it's part of your job, though.
Yeah. No, but
okay, yeah.
I would still have my actual job.
Yeah.
Like, I could find another coach is my point, right?
Yeah.
So if I get fired, it's not like now I have $0 and I have to move out, So for that reason, it's not, I'm not in the same league as what you're talking about where it's actually my job. But my point of saying that is, even if it's the finals or an important game or whatever, because there still is the competitive nature and guys want to win. So it's not just when it's my job. It's like, hey, I've told you 15 times that you have to stay inside the dots. You're not. Now there's 2 minutes left in the finals, and I can't put you out because you keep making this mistake that we've talked about. So even then, I'm fine with it personally. Like, as the coach, I know you are too. But for a lot of these kids, they don't get that feedback. Like, they don't get that input.
Yeah, when it comes out of left field, that's different.
Yeah, right. So
it's awful to be scared of making mistakes, and you see kids playing, kids that are typically, well, you just see it, right? You look at the OHL, you look at minor hockey, even kids that are the best players that get to play free. They get a little bit more leash. They're just relaxed. They get to play. The kids that are afraid when the coach is harping on them, get the puck out, whatever the 3 things they're allowed to do and do well, or they harped on, don't make this mistake. They play tight, and it's never pretty until they can learn how to just get the reps in and stuff like that. I see in the OHL all the time. The nervous kid, he goes, get me on, get me off. Did I do good, coach?
Yeah.
It's true, though.
Yeah.
Seriously. You're not yelling at me? Yeah.
Well, so I think the last thing I wanted to touch on, and then we can wrap it up, is from this, like, one of the under themes of us talking about this is, like, fundamentally things don't have to be that serious. Kind of how we were talking about, or you were mentioning at the start. Like, if you want to do the extra stuff and go to the extra tournaments and do all that stuff, like, that's fine, but you don't have to go ape shit. Like, it doesn't have to be the most serious thing ever. And so I guess most of our, maybe not most, I feel like we're pretty balanced overall when we talk about things, but we have a tone of, be dialed in, detail oriented, all these kinds of things that we think contribute to success as a player, moving on to higher levels. But then when is it too much now? Like, when is it too serious, or when is it actually detrimental that you're being as serious as you're being? Because we know guys too, and I would actually almost put myself, when I played, towards that camp, not quite, but where it was like, I was just very paying attention to things that I was supposed to be doing, to the point where I was in my own head. It was detrimental to me. But, there's guys we see that are just so serious, and it's like, you're not actually good. You know what I mean? There's that piece of it. Or it becomes like a mental issue where it's, for you, it's like you're so locked in. You mentioned Matt Martin a couple weeks ago, talking about how he was just like, yeah, I'm just playing. I like to play, and didn't really see any of this other stuff coming. Not that he was the most dialed in guy ever or whatever, but so kind of, what are your thoughts about that? When things are crossed the line?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's a really good topic, and there's going to be a lot of different thoughts on it, because some guys are just real serious and some guys aren't. Some guys are complete goofs, and they end up being good players, and they don't have to dial in anything, right? But when you're talking about how serious some people are, like, when you're a dad, you gotta like, here's the thing. There's a point where I guess it always comes back down to this is like how serious, like when are you too serious? Is well, it depends how serious you are about the game. It depends how serious at what level that you're playing. Like you can't expect, and but although some parents do this, I've seen it with my own eyes. Like you have a game tomorrow, you need to go, like a 10-year-old or a 14, 13-year-old, like a young kid. Like you have to eat this yet. Like they're freaking 10 or 9 or 11 or 15. Like it's not the end of the world if they're not totally dialed in the week of their game. Do you know what I mean? Because kids are really like they're fine. It's a game to them. There's a point in life where hockey becomes, if you're good enough, if you're dedicated enough, where it becomes serious, and it's no fun. Obviously, that's hence the word serious. But there's a point where someone controls what time you're going to be there, and you got to be at rank at X amount of time, and like it's so serious because it's about wins and losses and people's futures that it that the fun is almost taken away because it is so serious. But anyways, as a kid, like and parents, it's like that's my question is like what makes you that important that you have to be that serious about things? Because I question when people do things, it's like, but you're not that serious about the kid's school. And that's what everyone says is the most important thing in life. But you don't make kids spend hours doing math, make them shoot pucks, right? Like people talk out of both sides of their mouth and their ass at the same time, right? So, and again, it comes back to like when you're so serious, like when your ass is puckered so tight you couldn't pull a pin out of your ass with a tow truck, you're too serious, right? You're too serious. Like you're not having fun, and you have to be able to relax a little bit and get into a groove, and then I think serious like it depends what we call serious, but I think again if we put so much weight on a game or a individual event or something like that, if we put so much weight on it, then it imposes seriousness on you, right? Like, there's a championship game more serious than the first game of the year? Is it? It's just a game. And is it the tryout or like going to your first pro camp or OHL camp? Like, I understand it's serious, but it's like it's still the same thing every day. It's prepare on a daily basis, like, and you can have a lot of fun working out. You have a lot of fun training. When you're at home, you don't have to watch hockey videos all night unless that's something that you choose to do. Like, I think that's the extreme you're talking about, right?
So I'll ask it this way because you said at the start of this, like some guys are more dialed in than others, yet they could have a similar level of say success, generally speaking. So I could have the guy that before the game doesn't want to talk to anybody. He wants to put his headphones in and not just focus on what he's got to do, and he's a great player. You got the other guy that wants to joke around and play sewer and pull jokes on guys and whatever half an hour before the game, and he can go out there and be a phenomenal player also. So because people are different, it's like where would you, or maybe you can't, where would you put the line of, okay, you've crossed over into too serious land? Would it be at the point where it's now negatively impacting your own performance or negatively impacting your own thoughts about what you need to be doing? Or is there just not really
I don't know if
mark?
there's a line, but I think it's when it affects other people.
Okay,
You know
that's
what I mean?
interesting.
So like if well, you see it, man. There's guys like that. They have the music on, can't talk to me, but and it's also they're in the way of other things. It's the guy at there you go, right? There's the guy at, let's say it's the warm ups, your team warm up. I'm talking like a real warm up, not minor hockey 2 minutes, but I'm talking like you got like the 10-15 minute warm up, and the guy's on his own page doing his own thing, but it's actually distracting the other team. Like it's a team time now. If it's in practice and this guy's got to work on his stuff, not like it's all about him. Like that's what I would say it's a distraction to other people, because really at the end of the day, if everyone's got their own way to do it, and if and now you could as a coach or as a teammate, a captain or whatever, if I see that you're puckered up pretty tight, I might be able to want to talk to you a little bit and just say, hey, loosen up a little bit, but that might not be your thing, and that's up to you to figure out, right? But I think it always still goes back to this, like 100%, is if you can understand that there are no big moments. Like, I know that, take that with a grain of salt, but there's like everything's the same, it's only different, right? It's the same game, it's the same routine, it's the same thing every day. if you prepare properly and that means you practice, you put the work in, right? Then you're going to be what you are. So if you need to listen to headphones and listen to Jocko Willink in your ear for 6 hours, then that's what you need to do, right? If you need to have a protein shake at its exact time, then that's fine. That's you. But the other thing I would say is, when I know you agree with this 100%, is like you have to have the ability to know when to turn things on and when to turn things off, right? So there's a time and a place for you to be an individual and worry about stuff. That's fine. But there's a time and place where it's now about the team. There's a time and place where you get to be a jackass all day because it's not really affecting anybody else's life. Like, or you could joke around and all that stuff. But then there's a time and place where you're joking around is like, you're distracting me, dude. So when it's time to practice, right, you could have a smile on your face in practice and be very, very serious, right? But in that hour and a half, you need to be dialed in. But dialed in doesn't mean like you got mean mug, right? Eyes crossed, nose crossed, ears crossed, freaking feet crossed. It doesn't mean that. It just means that you're dialed in, you're doing to do your job. When your rep's over, maybe you're paying attention, stuff, but you do that well. When practice is over, if you need time to reevaluate or whatever, that's fine. But it's like, okay, that's done. Now you can turn the jets off. If it's a workout time, like you can do whatever you want. But when it's time to work out, that hour and a half, whatever it is, dial in and be focused, be present, be in the moment. And I think as long as you do that for everything that you do in your life, then you're going to have good outcomes, or the best outcomes that you can.
Well, I there are a lot of really good threads there that I could keep talking about. A couple things, and then we'll stop. I like you were talking about. Obviously, like I would say, there's two things that it's too serious if it negatively impacts your own performance. Obviously, which that's the getting in your own head, or you're doing things because you think you're being serious, but it's actually detrimental. Like the guy that has 15 minutes between a skate and a workout, so he does 5 extra sets of squats or something. It's like, yeah, that's actually going to negatively impact your workout now, man. Right? So there's that piece of it. And then the other piece, which I didn't even really think of that angle of it, is it affecting other people. I think that's huge, because the way that people normally think about this is if you're the guy joking around, you're impacting other people. That's why joking around is an issue, right? You're messing around too much and it's distracting people and it's getting other people off their focus and whatever. That can also be true with the too serious guy. It's just as distracting or gets in the way or negatively impacts your teammates around you. But in the way that people talk about things, it's like, well, you're just not dialed in enough and I'm dialed in. You know,
yeah, it's
like
not necessarily
that's
true.
not true, right? That cannot be true.
Well,
you know.
So Charlie and I were watching a documentary or watching one about Mario Lemieux, and Mario Lemieux, because his back issues and all that kind of stuff. But this guy comes back from cancer, back surgery, all these different things. The guy said like he would go in there, walk in, have a coffee, and have the paper, and he'd be reading the paper like a couple minutes like before the game, and guys would talk, and he'd be like, yeah. You just read the paper. Like, if you looked at that, you'd say like, hey, dude, we have a game.
Yeah. Right.
But then he gets 187 points,
exactly.
And with cancer and a bad back, I guess maybe he's good.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Right, you would look at that and say he's not dialed in, man. No, he is. That's how he dials in. He's just like,
and that's
read the paper.
That's a great point. It's not the mean mug. That doesn't mean you're focused, man, or that you're dialed in.
Or the guy that yells, goes, "Come on, guys!"
Exactly.
Doesn't mean anything. That's football.
Exactly. So that was a big point that I just want to highlight. That there's distractions in the obvious way, the joking around stuff, but then there's the too serious guy. So if you're the too serious guy, it starts to impact other people, right? So there can be, you're too serious and it negatively impacts you for that reason, and then there's you're too serious and it's negatively impacting the people around you, which I think is a really, really huge takeaway. So I think I'm good leaving it with that. There's so much in there that you said that was good, but I think that's good. Maybe we'll spend a little more time on this after, because I like that topic.
Cool, man.
Okay, that's
awesome.
all.
Okay,
see you later.
Okay, bye.